Alright, Zenith Celestial Throne update. Hell yeah, update. Let's check it out. Preamble, warnings, cautions. It's kind of interesting to put that as the next section down. We have fixed the speed flying Zenith, what the The Zenith Celestial Throne update came out last week, and it is a colossal dumpster fire in my opinion. I played this update for about 7 hours in total, and if you're saying, wow, 7 hours, that already sounds worth it, just know that about 5.5 of my hours were spent in misery so that I could at least leave a proper review for the game, and the other 1.5 hours of that was me staring into the black void that is the loading screens that have now been plaguing this game. I swear I spent more time staring at loading screens than actually playing during this update. Let's go ahead and start off with the new quests that they give you and the dungeons that come with them. This update brings instanced dungeons to Zenith, so what that means is you can actually queue for instanced dungeons, get a party together, and complete the dungeons. There are new quests that come with this as well, which in theory sounds really fun. It sounds really fun to be able to go complete a dungeon with your friends, a couple extra people, something that's supposed to be harder than the normal content for the game. Sounds like it requires a little bit of cooperation. However, something that you will realize after completing the instance one time is you are basically done with it after that. None of these instances have any fun mechanics or anything actually interesting to add to the game. All of the quest lines that they have you complete for these instance dungeons are basically exactly the same, the only different being the shape of the quest item that you get for it, and completing the dungeon really doesn't give you any good loot at all. Once you complete the dungeon one time, you'll realize you unlock a second quest where you have to go and beat the boss a second time. At this point in the game, after I had completed the second dungeon, I was realizing there was a lot of simulated length that they were starting to add to the game. They're just adding a lot more tick boxes of complete this thing X number of times. This is no more apparent than when looking in the actual instance tab in the menu and seeing that there are stars next to the instance that grant you additional rank for how many times you've completed the instance. I was told that these max out at 3 stars and 20 completions of the dungeon. So not only are you tired of doing the dungeon after the first time, but to be able to get your proper daily rewards, you actually have to complete it 20 times to get the maximum amount of rewards per day. This is a ton of simulated length that is not fun at all. If there's actually any amount of fun to these dungeons, then I might be able to have an argument in their favor here. But the fact that all of these dungeons are so forgettable that anybody joining them just tries to skip all of the content and get them over with as quickly as possible should be a pretty obvious showing that this was just added to make the update take longer to complete. Now, what do the additional ranks for each dungeon do? Well, if you upgrade your dungeon by completing it 10, 20 times, then you unlock the ability to get extra tokens for completing it once a day. Well, what does that mean? Well, to complete the raid and other things in the future content of the game, you need level 42 or higher gear to even be able to queue for those instances. How do you get that level of gear? You need a certain number of tokens. How do you get tokens? Well, you can earn a certain number of tokens per day for the dungeons you complete. So, not only is the content not fun to do and you need to grind it multiple times, but you can only earn so many tokens per day for the equipment you need to actually play the game. Now, this might be okay, or you could have an argument for it if you didn't already have max level characters, but if you do already have max level characters, then you're just literally sitting there for days waiting to get enough tokens to be able to play the next part of this content. You're literally gated off from playing some of the update. Let's put the dungeons and raid to the side for a second just to talk about the new celestial throne in the sky now. So there's a massive throne in the sky that you can climb up. It's basically a jumping puzzle that you can start up and begin climbing the journey. It's actually the most interesting part of the update is being able to climb this thing. I gave this a shot before I had completed the first 3 main quests, so when I made it all the way to the top and realized I didn't unlock a fast travel point, I knew that I had messed up entirely. I had to go finish the 3 quests and then go back and climb it a second time. To be fair, it was still the most fun that I had playing this update, but the fact that I wasn't able to unlock the fast travel or do anything here is a complete oversight in the launch of this update. I think they fixed this already, but the fact that it wasn't even looked at during the beta testing or anything along those lines just blows my mind. This just takes me back to the beginning of the game when I had hit max level and began enchanting my legendary gear to log out and log back in only to find that all of my inventory had been deleted. I don't understand how this large of game-breaking bugs or this type of content, which all it does is stall your progress, is really in the game. It makes me feel like a lot of these are left in for more of this simulated length to their game. You have to complete the dungeon a certain number of times. The boss's hitboxes aren't where they actually are. Your inventory gets deleted. It feels like it's all just stuff that's there to make you have to play the game longer. And a lot of the content, if it was fun, I probably wouldn't mind this at all. I'm there to play with friends and enjoy it. But the fact that the content itself isn't fun is the massive problem with this game. After climbing the massive throne and not getting a fast travel, I just decided to keep climbing and eventually take a little video or a picture with me with this giant ball of lean. Not sure if anybody has made it to this thing, but honestly, it's the only thing I have to show for this update that was any amount of enjoyment. Now at the start of this video, I showed that the update also removed an exploit that allowed people to fly faster than normal. So what this was is you had the ability to wiggle your hands in a certain way, and it took a little bit of practice, but you could fly much faster than normal at the cost of some additional stamina. What this meant is if something was just in the zone right next to you, sometimes it was actually faster to quick fly over there than to use the fast travel itself. This not only gave any players a sense of accomplishment for being able to actually perform the quick fly, but it avoided the player having to deal with massive black loading screens. Now that that exploit was patched out of the game, people are spending a lot more time just staring at black space into the black void than actually playing the game. The dungeons themselves that I was referencing earlier that you have to complete 20 times, a lot of them only take 5 or 10 minutes to complete, followed by a fast travel that takes you out of the dungeon and then having to requeue again. So that's 2 loading screens between just 5 to 10 minutes of game time. I don't know about you guys, but I actually like to play the game when I'm there rather than stare at a black screen. Now maybe the instance queuing black loading screen can't be fixed. However, there are so many more instances of this during this update that I can explain here. One of them is that there's a cooking quest that has you make 10 of an item. Once you complete 10 of that item, you need to take it to a specific person in a specific zone. Once you take it to that person tells you to go to another zone to complete it. Once you take it to that person, they tell you have to go to the tavern and individually pull things out of your inventory 10 times onto the table. Are you done after that? No, you have to travel back to the person that just told you to do that, and then you can complete the quest. There are so many instances at the end of this quest that the last 5 minutes of this quest, 4 minutes of it is spent staring at loading screens just from the amount of zones that you have to swap to. This really isn't fun at all. I understand that a lot of MMO games have a lot of mechanics that have you do fetch quests or have you kill enemies over and over. However, just transferring from zone to zone and having you do one individual thing at each zone might have actually even been okay if quick flying was in the game or there was a reason to fly anywhere. However, they took away the one fun mechanic in the game for flying, so fast travel is the best way to get anywhere. And since fast travel is the best way to get everywhere, have fun staring into the black abyss. I'm not sure the exact reasoning for why the quick flying or fast flying was removed from the game. I assume it had something to do with they had already made the Celestial Throne or had already made a lot of the dungeons, and they didn't feel like trying to rebalance the dungeons around a mechanic that the players had found out. While I understand it can be hard to rewrite or remake a lot of content, there's already a mechanic in the game that allows half of the player population, if not more, to skip the majority of the content. While I was climbing the Celestial Throne, I couldn't quick fly. What did I use instead? The Mage Teleport. The Mage Teleport lets you skip so much content in the dungeons, raids, and in the climbing section of the Celestial Throne that it doesn't make any sense why quick flying was removed at all. Quick flying is a mechanic that you actually have to practice to get good at to be able to use it to maximum efficiency. They can do things like have gusts that push you downwards or have other mechanics. There's other levels of creativity that the devs could have added to prevent quick flying from being as effective as it could be. The mage teleport takes no skill, and you have the ability to just spam it and skip all of the sections that they patched out quick flying in the game for. I really don't understand why it was removed. I wish I had the ability to try out some of the higher tier raids to see if they would be a reason that it would be worth sticking around to even test this out, but honestly I think it's going to be better to just wait to even attempt the raids till there's more fun content to actually play, to actually get to the proper level to play it. The fact that certain content in this game is gated off is fine. That makes sense across tons of MMOs across the business. However, gating off content and requiring people to do something that's not fun at all is completely different. This is the realm of VR. We aren't just able to watch a Netflix movie on our second monitor while we play the content and avoid it. We are legitimately there having an incredibly boring time. If you have a flat screen game that has gated content and has something boring or monotonous people are doing, they're going to be watching Netflix on their second monitor and chilling. In VR, you are stuck there. You are the one doing the boring content. It's not okay for a VR game, and the VR devs need to stop. The same argument might even be able to be said about the fast traveling thing I was saying earlier. There's so many fast travel points that make the game completely boring just because you're stuck there staring at the black void. If it was a flat screen game, you wouldn't be staring at that. You'd be looking at your second monitor. You'd be checking your email. However, I don't feel like these devs are making this game for VR. This game is just becoming completely unfun.
If it's not fun, why bother?
Zenith started as a grand vision with lots of promises and ended up being a bug-ridden mess with a fan base that is so deprived of content that they are reaching greedily for any scraps that fall off the table at this point. All of the people that are going to be in my comments section here saying, well, it's an early access game, quit being so harsh on it. I understand that VR devs have a very hard time and have to use things like Kickstarter to even get their projects off the ground. However, there's so many things in this game that just don't work. The different fuel types in the game don't do anything. Leveling up your cooking in the game gives you a chance to get 2 of the item instead of 1, which is still arguably nothing. I feel like so many people want Zenith to be good, so they're willing to argue for all these shitty mechanics. But in reality, you guys need to say that you're not okay with the changes or stuff needs to change, or the devs aren't going to think that anything is wrong. I'm just going to refer to Miyamoto's quote when he was talking about The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which is, "A delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad." Feel free to leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree with anything I've said during this video. I'll be more than happy to discuss anything with you guys. But in terms of anybody wondering whether or not they should come back and play this update, I can't recommend it for anyone unless you're like Starwind and want to come back specifically because the addition of ankles. Looks like you have a diaper on your face.
It kinda does. Yours clips, like your eyes clip.
Yeah, mine clips through my eyes. How does this get released? Fine.